Our next speaker is Dr. Harold Reitman, and Hecky Reitman is an MD, an author, a filmmaker, an ex-boxing champion, and a neurodiversity advocate. He says the world needs all kinds of minds. I remember last year we had Rosie King speak, a young woman who was a high-functioning autistic person. And she says, what's so great about being normal? Is being normal the highest compliment you would like to accept? So Dr. Reitman will tell us more about that.
Glenda and all you wonderful people for the Aspen Brain Lab, thank you for having me, and thanks for all you do to let all the world know that society needs to understand and embrace neurodiversity for the benefit of all of us, particularly with all the crazy stuff that's going on. Unlike all the real scientists who are here tonight, I'm not that today. It's that I think part of it's because I had too many concussions, and also because Glenda likes me, I think. So with that, we'll go to the video. Bill.
Heavyweight boxer Hecky Reitman, better known to his patients as Dr. Harold Reitman, orthopedic surgeon.
Dr. Reitman got interested in boxing as a kid back in Jersey City. He boxed in medical school where he won a Golden Gloves championship, then got back into boxing just a few years ago when his daughter had to have a serious operation.
And at the time, I just kind of said, if you just let Rebecca do all right, and I'll find the biggest, toughest guy in Florida, and I'll fight him.
This is not a fairy tale. Hacky lost a split decision. But out of defeat came a wonderful idea. Keep fighting and donate the money to kids' charities.
There's a lot of good things that everybody can do for kids, and it's just there to do it. And I'm not talking about poor kids or rich kids or just kids who need operations or anything, just kids.
Hacky won his last fight, and so did the Abused Children's Fund. They got the $15,000 purse. Next month, Hacky will enter the ring again, and win or lose, another children's charity will gain. And then there will be another fight. Although with Hacky, it's not fair to call them fights. Call them expressions of love for children because of one very special little child.
You got a big hug and a kiss before I go? Give me a kiss. I got one.
So, my daughter Rebecca, who's kind of my hero, she developed some health problems, and all of a sudden we're faced with 23 brain tumors through nobody's fault, being misdiagnosed all over the country because there were no MRIs and a lot of other reasons. So she undergoes 2 major brain surgeries. And how many of you are parents in the room? Anybody parents? So you know that deals you make with God, where you just, you know, she's undergoing surgery. I go, dude, just let her do okay. I'll do anything. I'll do anything. And I figured, because of the way my brain is wired, I'm going to get hit in the head so much that my brain will get damaged and hers will get better. So we know there's a lot of parents. Hit that video, Bill, please.
Every parent knows it, that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach. Turning everything upside down. You learn it's not under your control. If she falls down on her bike, she just keeps on pedaling. You stay on guard all the time.
And you parents know what it's like to stay on guard all the time. And despite everything we overbearing helicopter parents can do, Rebecca's doing pretty good. She's all county cross country. She loves mathematics, decides she wants to go to Georgia Tech and take discrete mathematics, whatever that is. And in college, she getting ready to graduate after a real tough time, and she decides to risk everything because she encounters a system that is unfair, she feels. And I was so inspired by her doing this, even though I told her, don't do it, take the deal, take the deal. She wouldn't. I wrote, produced, and directed the square root of 2 movies starring Darby Stansfield from Scandal. And I finished the movie, and I was very proud of myself and our whole team and everything, very proud of Rebecca, of course. And now she graduates from college, and she begins working in special ed, and the owner of the school says, you know, your daughter has Asperger's. And me, as a very intelligent, Boston-trained MD, says, what's that? I have no idea what that is. I better hold up release of the movie until I figure out what this, I knew she had brain tumors and ADHD and different things, but what is this? And I read all the gobbledygook of the time, and then I didn't feel so bad because doctors get zero training in different brains, pretty much, okay? Autism, Asperger's, all that. And you know, we doctors, MDs, like to tell you, we know everything. Well, 77% of doctors say, we have no clue about autism and Asperger's. And I'm very inspired now because now I'm lecturing the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and other medical, but it's also teachers, policemen, everybody. So now I hold up release of the movie and I go, what the heck is this movie about? How did it come out, now that I'm learning about Asperger's and autism and neurodiversity, that Darby Stanchfield did a much more nuanced performance than, say, a Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man or something. How did this really go? Well, because she studied Rebecca directly and didn't listen to the idiot director, writer, producer. And she just went directly to the source. So after researching this for 2 years, I had an aha moment where I said, wow, all our brains are different, and it all made sense. And I wrote the book Asper Tools about autism, Asperger's, and neurodiversity, because by the time I finished writing the book, I knew it wasn't just about Asperger's, autism, and everything. It's about all of our brains being different. As you heard from these brilliant, real scientists today who've dedicated their lives to this, that it all connects, and that's what I'm figuring out. You see, when you get a guy like, exercise, you've heard about, proper nutrition, diet, the Aspen lifestyle that many of you Aspenites live, how it's good for all of our brains. But I didn't get what my daughter was saying, that every brain is different. She wanted to be a tutor, not a teacher. So I started getting this idea about neurodiversity, and it's precisely because of my ignorance and because I'm new on the scene that I'm able to take what the great real scientists, people who dedicate their lives to this, many of whom you've seen today, and what they're doing at the University of Pittsburgh and, Johns Hopkins and all over, that, well, now, if we stop this society's thing that one size fits all to teach and employ the average, of which there is no such thing, maybe we should understand different brains. Video, please.
Treating all brains alike in a classroom setting, especially, is wrong. You have to treat each and every one differently. The hardest thing is with the teachers not understanding that, and they have so many students in front of them, they have a basic way of teaching.
In the school of 1,200, they have 30 students with Asperger's. Let me tell you, start looking at the statistics of 1 in 68 births being on the autism spectrum now. And you look, if you start adding up people with anxiety, people with PTSD, people with depression, bipolar, OCD, ADHD, I'll keep naming initials. There are a bunch of different people that make up our population. And everybody I talk to has got a friend or a cousin or a family member whose brain is different. I don't care what the label is. And personally, I think labels are a lousy way to describe a unique human being.
We can't put them in boxes. We have to allow each child the opportunity to be successful. So we have to make time the variable and mastery what we're looking for. And so if the child takes a little longer to learn that 3 times 3 is 9, that's okay.
Do you treat every one of your friends the same? Do you treat every single one of your siblings the same? Absolutely not.
I suggested to Hacky that what he was writing for was really a commentary on communication, whether it be parent-child communication or relationships communication, that it's not just for people with Asperger's, because all of our brains are different.
So then I started looking at the whole picture, and you know, you hear about the statistics on Alzheimer's, and thank God for that research that's going on, and all these other things. And I gave a keynote speech with Tim Shriver out at the Special Olympics, and Down syndrome, so many things, that why does our society just have one size fits all? We all have individual gifts of different nature. Some of us need more help than others. And also, none of these things happen in a vacuum. We all have anxiety. 1 in 5 Americans is on prescription medications for anxiety. And you start looking at it, and a lot of the tools you've heard today and the research you heard today, whether it be stroke, Alzheimer's, PTSD, concussions, a lot of the same tools will help. So everyone, CEOs, every profession you can name, once they start to look through the prism, and what I'm trying to do is change your perception, which was spoken so eloquently before, about look at each other with our different brains. When Thomas Armstrong wrote his book, he spoke about the different gifts. If someone's dyslexic, they have strong visual thinking abilities, you know, so on and so forth. Now, Matthew Schneps is a dyslexic astrophysicist who is the founder of the Visual Learning Center, which is a partnership between MIT, Harvard, and the Smithsonian. This guy is one of the smartest guys I've ever met, all right? And he can't read. He can't read. And then he's getting in a fight with me during my interview on differentbrains.com. I interview these people from all over the world by Skype or live in the studio. And he's setting me straight on a couple of things. This guy can't read. And then he goes, Hacky, now ask me any mathematical question. I said, all right, how much is 7 times 6? He says, I have no idea. My brain won't file it. But I have a calculator. When I went to college, I had a slide rule. You know the only college that would take me? MIT, because I knew all about the stars. I knew it. And they looked at my gifts. Video, please.
And just a quick correction on my very nice introduction you gave me. It's not that I just happen to have dyslexia. It's because of my dyslexia that I've done these things. If you have something that's different about your brain, it doesn't mean that you're not a productive citizen, that you can't make important contributions, and furthermore, that in many cases, the unusual perspective you bring can open up new ways of thinking that's very valuable to society. So the fact that our brains are different makes it possible for us to do things other people can't.
And so we're all on one big spectrum, not just autism spectrum, everything. And what are some of the things you can notice? Well, anxiety, and you can know how to diffuse it, no matter what the source of the person's anxiety is. Autistic individuals are hypersensitive. I didn't know that. Noises, crowds, touch. They take everything black and white. So when I pick up my daughter to take her for her workout, I have to pick her up at 10:16 because it's a square number. She'll be right on time. But don't say I'll be there around 10 o'clock. That drives them crazy. The most brilliant people in the world will take things literally. You say it's raining cats and dogs, they'll look out the window to do it. They're truth tellers. My daughter Rebecca tells me, if you don't want the brutal truth, don't ask me the question. Do I look fat in this shirt? Yes. Meltdowns. We all have to avoid meltdowns, but when they get a meltdown, you just have to get out of the way. I wrote the book Asper Tools. It's not a scientific thing. All it is stories with tools, with real tools you can use, but by the time I finished writing the book, which to my surprise was published by HCI, who did Chicken Soup for the Soul, it applies, these tools apply to everything. So if you take the time to observe, it amazes me how many parents I talk to. I say, what's your kid interested in? I don't know. Find out, harness that gift. Limit choices to avoid saying no. Be specific. And as you see, rules, rewards, and consequences, that's basic behavior for any of us, not just for people with autism and Asperger's. Unconditional love is the most important tool of all, because you don't want to withhold love, you want everyone to feel nurtured, and you don't want to make people disappointed by withholding your love. That's the single most important tool. And being positive, we're not going to have time for that video, which was a few experts saying really how to be positive, that this is not a sentence, it's a journey when one's brain is different. I've learned a lot about my daughter, and now, as my daughter will say, well, I know my dad always loved me, but now he's starting to understand me, understand a little bit. I am delusional because, I'm glad we had that earlier lecture, because I'm like hypomanic. I thought I was going to be heavyweight champion of the world and save the world. And the Aspen Brain Lab gets, with Glenda and Yoli and Bill and all the great board members, that it's all about the brain. That's where things are moving forward. My classmate, Dr. Tom Insel, who was the director of the NIH and the NIMH of the NIH, National Institute of Mental Health, he's been kidnapped by Google. They put him in charge of life neurosciences for Alphabet, which is going to be their biggest thing. So I got into this by this circuitous route with Asperger's, autism, but it's all about neurodiversity. And what I'm trying to do is put everybody under one roof at differentbrains.com, where we do all these interviews and have all these blogs, and I invite all of you, because I want to get the people in the autism community, the Alzheimer's community, the PTSD community, the concussions, to all be sharing and play nicely in the sandbox instead of fighting with each other, because the way our system is set up, when you're going for grants, you got to go in one box. And proper diet, nutrition, activity, exercise, many of the tools in the Asper Tools book, they're great for all of our brains and our bodies too. And if there's anything we can do to help mainstream your efforts, we will be delighted to do it at differentbrains.com, which I hope I can figure out a way to make it keep going. And thank you very much. Appreciate it.